Hi, good afternoon, Tisha. Thank you for coming on the show.
Good afternoon, and Tim. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Tisha. So, Tisha, for our viewers who may not be as familiar with you and your expertise, can you please talk a little bit about who you are, your background?
Sure. So, my current role is a director of customer insights for Kenvue, which is formerly Johnson& Johnson Consumers. We're responsible for a large portfolio of brands that consumers, 1.2 billion consumers around the world know, like Neutrogena, Tylenol, Listerine, Aveeno, those such brands. As a director of insights, I report into our strategy and performance hierarchy, which is a global role in which I oversee and collaborate with customer experience experts or practitioners within the regions, as well as across some global functions. And so my background before getting into the customer insights role is two disciplines. Most recently, supply chain. I came to Johnson Johnson Consumer after my getting an MBA in supply chain. I've been there for 5 years. So that's my most recent discipline. But I spent the longest time in retail. My undergrad degree is in fashion and retail merchandising. And so I spent close to 17 years in the corporate retail space as a buyer, planner, merchandiser. So to land as a director of customer experience, I'm leaning on my commercial experience in retail, as well as understanding how we get product to market, having the supply chain background as well.
That's a great and rich background, Tisha, as I have shared with you before. So thank you so much for sharing that with our viewers. So Tisha, in your either your current role or in your prior roles, when your leadership come to you and they say, great job, what are they typically counting on you for?
Initially, it's all about business impact. We're all working to improve upon our operational performance. There are key metrics that drive or kind of report out on how we are delivering operational performance. And so in my current role, my CEO gets excited when I'm sharing new insights or things that they haven't heard from before from the voice of customer. They get excited when we develop strategies and plans to action on those insights. And ultimately, when those action drives improvement in our performance, whether it be in our top line sales, our bottom line gross profit, and an improvement in our customer experience scores. So that is what good job looks like for me to the CEO.
That's a great answer, Tisha, and thank you for sharing that. I get really excited when I hear researchers talk about impact because that is so near and dear to my heart, especially, a lot of our viewers as well and a lot of our peers in the research community, we tend to get hyper focused on the how and new shiny tools and techniques that we can leverage in getting deeper into customer insights, that sometimes the what, the why, the impact take a back seat. And so it's so refreshing and so wonderful to have you, lead with talking about impact first, because I think that's so critical. So thank you for doing that. In your world, Tisha, when you have your CEO or you have your other cross-functional teams approach you, what challenges do you see them facing, especially when viewed from the context of improving customer experiences? Can you please talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I feel like the challenges are multifold in that it's oftentimes I find myself having to ground people on what the customer experience is because it means different things to different people depending on your role. So shaping that or just having a common framework of what do we mean when we say customer experience. I think as we are transitioning Kenvue from our legacy Johnson& Johnson family, having the right mechanisms in place to drive customer experience, to know that we're making the right decisions in our business to drive customer experience, and we're able to see that impact both internally and externally. So I think it's our challenges are not short, right? So having a common framework on what it means, a common understanding of what it looks like when it comes in terms of like the insights and the experience, having a common measurement that everyone could apply to their business. Again, I'm in a global role, so I have to ensure that all the markets, no matter the size and their scale, can have some level of applicability to the insights that I'm delivering to them. And then ultimately the impact, the impact is going to vary across the globe. So it's all about messaging and making sure that my cross-functional partners understand their role in driving the experience, their tools to drive the experience, and ultimately what it means for them. Why should I care, right? So we always have this, we use with them, what's in it for me, right? And when we end our buy-in discussions and I'm trying to get people to adopt a new way of thinking or a measurement or a new tool, and it's always ending, this is why this is important. This is how it's going to improve or make it things easier for you and or our customers. So that having that commonality across those different aspects of running customer experience are the other challenges that we're facing.
That's fantastic, Tisha. And those are some great examples as well. And I want to double click on a couple of those because I think I feel strongly that there's a lot of gold in what you just said. So I want to dive in a little deeper for our viewers. I think it is so, so critical and so important in what you said at the onset about really helping internal stakeholders understand what you mean by customer experience, because it could be so much different depending on the team and the unit and what facet of the business are they operating in. I also see a lot of synergies in what you just said to how we go about guiding our clients. So in our business, Tisha, when we get approached by clients for insights or customer journey type of work, the very first thing that we do is we invite folks in for what we call a hypothesis setting workshop. And they come in not knowing what they have different ideas on what will happen. But what we typically do in these workshops, Tisha, is we present a customer experience map or a customer journey map based on what the client currently knows about their customer journey, about their customer experiences. And our brief to everyone coming into that workshop is just help us butcher this map. This is not based on any new research that we've done. It's just based on an amalgamation of the understanding and the insights that you all already have. And those workshops are really fascinating, Tisha, because what happens is people are sitting in and we invite, stakeholders from different teams, different units to come in. And like you said, customer experience could have a different meaning for everyone in a room. And it may mean something very different to them, to each one based on their experiences, their viewpoints. And so in these workshops as well, Tisha, what never ceases to amaze me is we'll have someone, let's say in marketing, stand up and say, well, in this facet of the map that you guys are showing us, I think this is correct because this is what customers are going through in this stage of their journey, and this is how I feel that it's impacting their experience. And then you have someone from operations get up and say, well, I disagree.
Right.
I don't think it's like that. By the time they come to me, they are talking about XYZ, and I don't even see that reflected here. And at that time, Tisha, we as the researchers, we're not saying anything, we're just taking notes. But what I really like is how, the folks in marketing then, like turn starry-eyed at them and like, what, really?
Yeah.
Is that what they're saying to you?
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating. But for journey mappers and for researchers, for us, the learning is, this is a gap in customer understanding right now. So, when you talked about that, I really wanted to share this as an experience because you are so true.
It's so critical to break down the silos, right? So this is one of the things I love about this role is that, and just how my background supports this role and allows me to be successful is because I really do have an end-to-end perspective, right? Having been the customer working in supply chain, and I have insight into, more upstream development opportunities, product development opportunities, and with our PMO office and our marketing team. And I think it's critical for this role to be centralized so that you can speak the language of all those cross-functional partners and bring them together. Because at this stage, oftentimes we have a company of experts. Everyone's an expert in their field, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I think when you're in a CX role, it's important to have a level of to be a generalist, right? And to be able to work end to end in the cross silos, and to be able to collaborate with the team and influence the team to adopt a common framework and approach on how we, improve the customer experience. So yeah, it's I can imagine being in rooms like that when people are, in their hubbies and they're focused on what they're good at, and what their experts are, or where their expertise lies, and hearing from their counterparts all the different facets, whether you're upstream or downstream of the customer experience. Yeah, it could be a very eye-opening experience for sure.
It is. And, also as an experience share, what I'd like to have our viewers walk away with also is when you do things like that, when, like you said, Tisha, in focusing on, well, what does this mean to you in your world? It also enables a lot of buy-in to happen early on with the research or with the effort that is being planned, where people feel that, they are being heard and their gaps are being addressed. So that's also a best practice. Coming back to, your experiences, Tisha, from customer journey aspect or standpoint, can you please talk about an example or a case study when you leveraged customer journey mapping, how you went about it, and what was the impact of that for your organization?
Sure. I think our customer journey mapping process began with just identifying who our customers are, right? And so through that discovery, we've identified 4 core personas or customer types that we do business with. And then our journey mapping with those customer types commenced, right? Because each of them have a different way in which they work with us, different tools, different process. And I think one extreme is when we think about like our mass retail customers, where a lot of our interaction, frankly, is twofold. It's strategic, right? Because they're our largest customers in terms of the volume, but it's very transactional to a large degree, in that there's a high degree of automation, right? And then we think about our small mom and pop stores, like our independent pharmacies, which dominate our European markets. They are transactional in that they don't plan their business the same way a mass retailer does. And they're high touch, meaning our sales team and their sales rep for those independent pharmacies have such a high degree of influence on how their business is ran. So understanding the scope of those 2 personas and then mapping the journey to ensure that we have processes and tools that optimizes their journey has been very interesting. And the question becomes, well, what is more important, because we interact with each of them so differently. So I think that's, where we are right now in our discovery phase, that we've identified the 4 personas, we've mapped their journeys. Now the question becomes, how do we customize and or personalize those journeys so that we're optimizing our interaction with them? And then frankly, it comes down to prioritization. Our mass retailers, while we don't get a ton of orders in terms of volume of orders, the value of their orders are much larger. So frankly, they tend to get a little bit more attention because they're carrying our business. But we don't want to negate the criticality of our independent pharmacy, because their orders are smaller in value but larger in volume, and that the frequency at which they place orders, the number of lines on each order, the number of codes on each order, and so the volume in which we have to manually accommodate them is a little different. So it comes down to prioritization, right? And where do we want to get the most bang for our buck without, negating, they're both important, customer groups.
That seems like a fascinating project, Tisha. Thank you for sharing that. If this goes as well as you're expecting it to, in terms of impact, what are you expecting will be the likely impact of this work on your business?
I think the number one thing that I'm expecting to happen is that we're going to transition our call centers from a cost center to a customer hub because our insights, and we deploy the right mechanisms, are going to be so rich that we don't get today. So that's one key impact is transitioning or converting our call centers from a cost center into something where it's a profit center for us, right? From the rich insights. I think the second thing that's going to come out of our journey mapping experience is the tools that we deploy within the company. We have an order management system that our smaller, like non-EDI customers leverage, but there is value for our EDI customers to leverage our order management system as well so that we can understand friction points throughout or regardless of the customer type, right? And then the last thing is we're using platforms like Qualtrics when we are deploying not only our annual surveys for our solicited feedback, but at those cost centers or call centers for unsolicited feedback. We're going to dump all of that into a platform like Qualtrics and have a more rich insights from across the spectrum of our customers, which is something that we're not able to do today. And so in turn, if we're able to bring in those insights from those multiple channels and analyze it across the spectrum of customer groups, I'm anticipating that we'll have an improved customer experience, which is not the best today, unfortunately. But by improving it, obviously we'll see that upside in the terms of volume of orders as well as the value of orders because will become easier to do the business with.
That's a great way to tie it in, Tisha, and I appreciate you doing that. I want to double click on a couple of things that you said for our viewers because I think there's a lot of gold in what you just shared. First of all, I love the approach that you've taken from looking at this journey study from a persona-based approach. I think that makes results more meaningful, more actionable. It also helps you understand customer journeys, when viewed from the lens of their personas. So that's a great methodology. I think the way you are thinking about the impact, especially in terms of your call centers, in making them transform from a cost center to something that is more of a profit center, that really guides your customer experiences. I think that is also brilliant. That is also something that when we are guiding our clients, Tisha, we like to encourage clients to think first and foremost about the impact items like you do on not just any journey project, but any insights project as well. Why are we doing this? What is the impact that we're going to achieve? And when we speak about impact, Tisha, then like you, we also have our clients look at impact from three different lenses. The first and foremost is, what is the business impact? So how will this move the needle? In your case, there's a clear business impact on all the improvements that you outlined. The second guidance that we provide is focus on converting those business impact items to financial impact items. So again, in your case, Tisha, and that's why I wanted to double click on what you said, you so brilliantly converted the business to the financial impact in having the organization see how these cost centers can become hubs for customer experience improvement and profit centers. That I think is so key for any of our viewers who are embarking on journey work. If you can tie in those business impact items to how they convert into strong financial impact items for your organization, where how those insights, if those improvements are made, well, how do they reduce costs? How do they generate more revenues? How do they reduce cost leakages? How they build loyalty? And what is the financial impact of that? So if sales grow by 2% as an attribute for this project, what does that mean? If they grow by 10%, what does that mean? And in our work, Tisha, we actually produce journey maps where we replace some of these insight percentages with dollar percentages or dollar amounts. And that's a story that gets a lot of appreciation, especially when presenting at the C-suite at the board level. Because as you know, Tisha, the C-suite cares about the insights, but they also want you to justify, okay, so you're saying we shouldn't do X or we should invest X in the business, well, what's the ROI going to be? And so if you can tell the journey story from the facet of hard dollars, it becomes a much more easier sell. And then the third impact item that we guide our clients, Tisha, is more on the personal impact. What happens when the call center transforms from a cost center to a profit center? Well, for your leadership or your stakeholders, what does that do for them personally? Does it make someone fight a little less harder for budgets every year? Does it make someone's life a lot more easier? But also understanding that personal impact is so critical because it encourages buy-in and ensures that the insights that you have worked hard on get acted on and don't just become another report on someone's desk.
Yeah.
And I know you know all this. I'm double clicking on all the gold that you shared for our viewers' perspective, because this is the advantage of when you think of projects from an impact standpoint early on, as opposed to what new shiny research tool am I going to get to use, in this one. So I thought that was really a great example that you had.
Great.
So Tisha, I know we're almost at the end of our time, but I wanted to ask you, if you had the opportunity to do any of these customer journey projects again, what improvements would you make? Or is there anything that you would do different?
I think in my space, my current role, I'm focused on customer journeys from a B2B perspective. But I think what I'm finding is that there is an opportunity to extend that view and collaborate more with my B2C counterpart, because the customer journey for our retail customers ends at the shelf, right? It doesn't end when they, get their order and, they pay for their goods. But it extends to, okay, once they receive their order, at their warehouses, how long does it take for them to unload our trucks? Are we labeling boxes so that it can seamlessly flow through, their supply chain networks? Are they arriving at the stores not damaged? Are we able to supply in a way that we can always secure availability at the rate of sale? Are we able to support promotions and other seasonality at shelf? Are we able to offer newness to the customers and able to participate in whatever promotional programming they have for a category or a particular customer type at shelf? So I feel like right now the industry is very focused on this journey mapping, but we need to ensure that the journey mapping is cohesive, right? That we're not just siloing it to just B2B or just B2C or just marketing or whatever other roles that are happening within the org. Because what happens is, if I'm able to connect my B2B insights with the B2C insights, those insights then go to marketing and to packaging development and product development to further. It's a cycle, right? It could be a closed loop cycle. It should be constantly like a loop that we are feeding the experience. We're getting the insights, and I'm putting them back into marketing's hands so they can better design product lines. Packaging can better design new packaging innovation to seamlessly flow to excite the customer, what have you, right? So we're really all interconnected. So I love the journey mapping process, but I would love for it to be more integrated. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And, that's a great observation as well. That sometimes is the mindset that we have to consult and guide on as well, because you're right, especially in your world, dealing with retailers or shoppers, a lot of companies tend to look at it as a very linear journey that begins and ends at the shelf level. And your instincts are so spot on, Tisha. This is actually a cyclical journey. It doesn't really end when the purchase has been made. And now when you layer on the whole B2B facet, then it's really B2C to B to B to C again. It's almost a loop, a cyclical kind of a journey. And I have to share with you, yes, that is absolutely spot on. And that is also something that forms a big part of our consultation with our clients. So I think you're absolutely on the right track. I wish you continued success. in helping your organization continue to find the gold in these journey efforts. But thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I think our viewers will walk away with a lot of gold from this discussion as well.
I hope so. And thank you for having me. I enjoyed the process of sharing.